Thank you very much. To kick off this debate, I'm going to give a brief introduction. If you want to tell a story of Europe, we have to bring an understanding of critical times in current developments within the European Union and discuss their long-standing consequences first. Despite the EU has been recognized as the greatest peace project in history, a current political narrative that focuses on so-called design flaws of the European model often prevails. How did we come from the model of unity in diversity, basically functioning subsidiarity, to the question of survival, to stand and withstand? Does the pessimistic narrative signal the EU has outgrown itself, or is there a common consensus among the member states on areas of cooperation? Moreover, are those areas of cooperation purely based on pragmatic trade interests, or should we build upon values, principles, and traditions? Leaders will be invited to share their view on Europe's biggest challenges, priorities, and brainstorm the kind of future they want for the EU. Before we start, we have to set some ground rules. I strive to get a critical conversation that allows participation by all members. Please limit your answers to 2 minutes. You will see the time on the monitor. I'm going to allow short replies by other guests as well. I will imply two-finger rule, so please wave me and I will give you the word, but please be brief. We are really short on time, and if you want to get the most out of the debate, let's be brief. Regarding audience questions, I have a tablet on me where the audience could ask questions over social media. Use hashtag BSF2021. I will select those accordingly when needed. So, to launch the debate, to set a frame, let's start with the question, what is the purpose of politics? This is a quick fire round, no more than 30 seconds, and I will start with the lady in the room, Ms. Šuica. Please.
Thank you for this question. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to this forum, and I feel privileged to sit in such honorable company, being the only woman this morning here. As you know, I'm I'm member of first ever gender-balanced European Commission, and I really feel privileged to talk to you. Regarding to your question, what is the politics to me, I may answer. Politics means trust and connection. Trust and connection to our citizens, but not for a day, not for tomorrow, not for campaign, but lifelong connection and lifelong trust. So we have to believe in our citizens, we have to believe in our voters, and this is the reason why we are organizing this conference on the future of Europe, because we want to listen to our citizens, because the period of 4 years or 5 years of our mandates is, there is a gap, and citizens want to interact in the meantime. So we want to give them a say, we don't want to leave anyone behind, and as we heard this morning in different speeches, democracy is not static. It evolves constantly, and we have to listen to our citizens and to take their replies and their ideas into consideration when drafting European policy. So we want that citizens feel that they can influence drafting European policies. This is the idea.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hager.
Thank you very much also for the invitation. And very briefly, I think in a democratic society, in a democratic countries, politics is about serving the people and bringing solutions to make their life better, to provide quality services. And that involves a lot of activities, starting with networking, working with the people, with the experts, etc. But in general, I think it's about serving.
Thank you. Mr. Orban. What is politics to you?
Speaking not on philosophical level, but practically as a leader, may I say that politics in the Hungarian understanding is a job for the leaders to help the people, our nation, to prepare for the future.
Thank you.
So therefore it means that we have to understand what this future will look like. Second, what kind of instruments we have had, what kind of instruments we don't have, and how we can get it. So to help to prepare your nation for the future.
Thank you. Mr. Babiš.
So the politician has to serve the people, the country, and he shouldn't enter to politics selfishly to achieve a better life for himself. This is very important. And the role of the good politician must be driven by endless desire to create a better life for all citizens of the country, combined with the human quality of understanding of people, of their life, of their needs. And a good politician should be also the manager who can manage the crisis, COVID crisis, Afghanistan crisis, tornado, we had tornado, and so on. So this is important that in politics we need people which achieve in their life already something concrete, not speeches, endless speeches with no action at the end.
The question, in my opinion, should be, how can we take very clear and strong decisions in order to build a better future? And indeed, it means that we need to protect the fundamental values, but at the same time, to guarantee that we can make also more collective progress. And this balance between the rights of each citizen and the common interest of the society should be the framework in order to take decisions and to improve the societies.
Thank you. Mr. Janša.
Well, already has been said, so...
I'm pretty sure you have an opinion of yourself as well.
I think that the main purpose of politics is to coordinate different interests. People are different, and we all want to live in freedom, and but for the society to develop, it is necessary to coordinate different interests. And the main purpose of politics is to do it. For the politician, I think the main purpose in politics is to speak truth and to deliver what he or she promised.
Thank you. Mr. Sassoli.
Noi abbiamo ereditato una grande storia.
Inherited a great history.
Una storia fatta di grandi sofferenze.
Made up of major suffering too.
Perché la democrazia non è
Because
scesa
democracy
dal cielo.
didn't fall down from the sky.
E noi abbiamo il dovere di
So
custodire
we have the duty to protect
questo processo di pace, di
this
democrazia e di
process
libertà.
of peace, democracy and freedom.
Naturalmente
And of course,
abbiamo anche la necessità
we also need
di
to
rendere il nostro sistema democratico più
make
efficiente.
our democratic system more efficient.
perché sappia rispondere
because
con
the
più
system
efficacia
must have more quicker and prompter responses
ai problemi delle nostre opinioni
to the
pubbliche.
problems of our societies.
Quindi abbiamo una grande
Therefore,
responsabilità sulle
we
nostre
have
spalle,
on our shoulders we bear a heavy responsibility.
perché questa
Because
storia di 70 anni di
this
pace,
70-year
di
history of
cooperazione
peace,
e di
cooperation
libertà
and freedom
non possiamo permetterci di tradirla.
does not
Grazie.
allow us to betray it.
Thank you. Mr. Plenković.
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation, Janez, and all the Slovenian hosts and friends for organizing another Bled Strategic Forum. Politics for me is, first of all, engagement, it's responsibility, it is the values and the convictions that we share, that we bring in before the public and before our citizens. Then it's the program and its delivery. I will just emphasize that this job today, given that we live in the globalized world and in the age of internet, has altered substantially. It is also a matter of endurance, it's a matter of reaction, and it's a matter of trying to advocate what is fact and what is fake. This is what we are very much faced with and often today. And I think this will be the biggest challenge for democracy, and then when it comes to Europe, I think we should all be winning our European battles at home. If we do that, then Europe will do fine.
Thank you. Mr. Mitsotakis.
Politics for me is being both a manager and a leader at the same time. We're constant problem solvers, and we need to address crises, small and big ones. At the end of the day, we need to deliver results. That's what citizens expect from us. Being a leader means, first of all, speaking the truth and occasionally taking unpopular decisions. We are in this job because we have to take decisions that many others would not want to take because they fear that they would suffer politically if they do so. So being able to distinguish between what is important and what is less important, looking at the short-term future, but also balancing long-term strategic requirements, that is the job of a politician today.
Thank you very much for inviting me at this forum, at this panel as well. And, well, politics means vision. Politics means ideas and fulfillment of someone's proclaimed aims. And I also believe that politics is not flattering the people, it's not about flattering the people and following the polls. It's about bringing up courageous decisions and decisions that most of the people would never bring up. And I also think that our job is, of course, to serving the people, to serving the nation, the countries, and well, people are here to assess it, to estimate it properly. That's it. I'm not a Leibniz and Schopenhauer to do it in a more philosophical way.
I am not a politician, but I would like, first of all, to thank the Slovenian authorities for this invitation. I am very glad that the whole EC is here. He can add his voice on the future of Europe. What is politics? I would like to say what somebody has already said. Politics for us, for the Christian vision, is a service, And I would like to add a phrase of Pope Paul VI, St. Paul VI, saying that politics is the highest form of service to persons and to communities, to societies. Is the highest form of service because is looking for, is implementing what we call the common good, the good of each person, taking into account each person, and the good of all persons of the community. Then it is really a big challenge for everybody.
Thank you very much for fire on. Why I put that question forward? It was to showcase that basically you're not all so different. You're all exposed. You all put forward hard matters, hard politics, serving the other people and leaving your egos aside. And so somehow it is a bit unusual why that doesn't really function nowadays within the European process. What are the problems? Because we get this feeling that ego is first and foremost the biggest elephant in the room. But now you all describe that it should be hard decisions, making good for the people. So there is a bit of a discrepancy here. And that's why I wanted to showcase that actually European Union could work together, but the question is how. To address the other elephant in the room, the Mr. Sassoli's speech stirred some voices in the public, especially in the first row. Would anyone like to comment on his speech, what he said? Mr. Mitsotakis.
I took note of what David said, and I share his ambitious agenda regarding the reform of European institutions, but I would politely disagree with his assessment regarding the decision taken yesterday by the European Council at the level of the ministers regarding Afghanistan. What we said was very clear that we do not want a repeat of the uncontrolled and unregulated massive migration flows that we experienced in 2015. And I stand by that decision as a country that was a victim of a policy which ended up highlighting significant failures of European institutions, because we have not yet been able to agree on a common migration and refugee pact. But we have agreed that we need to protect our borders. We need to do it in a disciplined and principled manner with full respect to international law. But we should also acknowledge, as Europe and as European institutions, that we need to learn from our mistakes. And I think what happened in 2015 was a mistake. We acknowledge it openly. We address the need to support refugees closer to the source of the problem, which is Afghanistan, and we're sending a very, very clear signal to smugglers and those who exploit human pain and desperation that they cannot repeat what they have been doing systematically for the past years. So allow me, David, to disagree with this aspect of your speech.
Would you like a reply?
Ma io apprezzo molto il lavoro
I definitely appreciate
delle autorità della Grecia.
The work of Greek authorities.
Sono stato anche al confine.
I was there. I was on the border. We were with the Prime Minister together.
We were together. I need to remind that we were together at the Greek border in March 2020.
Esatto.
Yeah, we were together. Exactly. We were together on the border because we wanted to show that the European space and the European borders of Greece
difesi
must be defended, must be protected, and are a common good of Europe.
E per dire anche un'altra cosa.
And let me tell you something else.
Che nessun paese può essere lasciato da solo rispetto
alla
propria posizione geografica
because of its specific geographical position.
In relazione alle sfide dell'immigrazione.
When this country is faced with challenges such as migration.
Non deve essere lasciata da sola la Grecia.
Greece must not be left alone.
Tutti i paesi del Mediterraneo.
Neither the other Mediterranean countries
I paesi della nostra frontiera orientale e baltica.
The eastern border and Baltic states, neither.
Ed è per questo.
That's why.
Che abbiamo bisogno di una politica dell'immigrazione e dell'asilo europea.
And asylum policy at European level.
Però c'è un problema.
But there's a problem here.
Che mentre il Parlamento europeo chiede
While the European Parliament
che si superi il meccanismo di Dublino
is asking to go beyond the Dublin mechanism.
Chi arriva in Grecia,
therefore, people that reach Greece basically reach Europe.
Gli Stati membri,
the member
i
states,
governi,
the governments,
non dotano le istituzioni europee di potere per poterlo
the
fare.
European Union with powers to do so, to act.
E allora qui c'è una domanda.
And so this begs the question,
come pensano gli stati
how can the
nazionali
national states,
se non dotano l'Unione Europea di nuove competenze,
if the European Union has no more powers,
di affrontare da
can
soli
they believe they can face
i problemi dell'immigrazione
the
e
challenge of
dell'asilo?
migration and asylum on their own?
Questa è una domanda
So that's the
a
question.
cui tutti gli Stati membri dovrebbero rispondere con
that
verità.
all the member states should reply in truth.
Okay, thank you very much. This has been a great setting for another question, which I will pose to Mr. Michel. You hold the position of the President of the European Council. What is your guidance when defining this very same agenda that was described earlier? What do you believe should be on the future European agenda?
Maybe one word about this exchange of views between our friends Kyriakos and David, because it's very interesting. It shows the institutional reality of this European project with a double legitimacy. On the one hand, you have the legitimacy of the European Parliament with members directly elected in the different member states. On the other hand, you have the national governments, the head of states, the head of governments, and they are responsible day after day with the national parliaments, with the domestic press, following what we are deciding at the European level. Point one. Point two, in the next weeks, the next months, we have a very clear agenda. First of all, I'm convinced that we need to work in order to strengthen our strategic autonomy. And it's very concrete. It's not something that would be theoretical. First, we need to strengthen the single market. We need to work in order to build, I hope, a stronger banking union. It will be on the agenda in December, and we are preparing those topics, the economic ambition, point one. Point two, I think in the same time that digital and climate change are huge opportunities. And this is really interesting because in a few years, we made a lot of progress. I remember a few years ago, only 6 or 7 member states were convinced that it would be necessary by 2050 to make Europe climate neutral. And only in 5 months, we were able to get a consensus on this very strong goal, this very strong ambition. And so I'm optimistic, in fact, because even if I do not underestimate the difficulties, the different opinions, I think that on the big orientation for the future, we agree we need more prosperity. Climate change, digital revolution are very strong tools, point one. We need more security. How is it possible to act more together in order to prevent, in order to be more influential in the world? And of course, the values. I suppose we will come back on those topics because sometimes this is a controversial topic, not on the principles, but on the way we think we need to implement and on the way we think we need to decide how we make Europe a democratic, strong and democratic society.
These are all very big words, but we have challenges that lie right in front on our background. Europe was promoted as a soft power. We've seen that Pax Americana is definitely ending, especially with what's been going on in Afghanistan. Is this soft power narrative still enough? Is this still the answer to the globalized world and globalized challenges? Mr. Janša, how do you perceive that problem? You were the one who actually made the migration debate not so long ago.
Yeah, both dilemmas are linked, of course, to the last one, my answer is yes. Is no. So soft power is not enough. We also need hard power. It's obvious. So huge efforts made by the having made by the European Union and European Union nations to help poor countries, to help refugees in the camps in the third countries and so on. Not always, but very often this help is not viable, it's not coming to the people if we are not able to make a secure environment. So, and for this you need, soft power is not enough, you need also hard power. And it's obvious that, especially after what has happened in Afghanistan,
which was mentioned here. So this was really a fault at that time. Nowadays, we have to manage migrations if we want to do something with this. But we have also to think about our artificial intelligence, about robotics, At the same time, it is very sensitive to mention rates, natality rates, mortality rates, but it's a member states' competence, I know. But at the same time, we have to create an environment for people to live in rural areas. I don't know if you know, 80% of European territory is covered by rural areas, and only a third of European population live there. So this is vast potential, and at this moment we are creating environment for people to live there. Even now, during this COVID-19 pandemic, these rural areas were more attractive to live than big metropolitan areas. So we have to attract people to live there, but above all is broadband internet. If you don't have broadband internet there, you cannot create jobs. Today there is not question where do you live, but how well you are connected. And this is very important nowadays. So demographic is very vast sector, so I cannot now...
but definitely everything is connected to,
yes,
that, like
okay.
from the concept of solidarity, going forward to enlargement. And speaking about enlargement, I have a question for Mr. Orban. Actually, how are we going to define acquisition criteria for new member states, accession criteria for new member states? Are those going to be rule-based or value-based?
May I have a remark on migration also?
Sure, of course.
Because probably some of you remember that I was the first one who definitely fought against the concept of the Speaker of the European Parliament from 15, at the very first moment, to say that that policy and that approach can destroy the cultural identity of Europe, will deliver a lot of unsecured groups of people to Europe. That could be resulted in terrorism and many social difficulties, and we don't have answer and we are not prepared how to treat that kind of new challenges. So I represent that position from the very beginning. And now, as Afghanistan happened, I think this is the reality again. And as a consequence of the dispute on migration issue inside the European Union created many diversities and difficulties and differences. And I think now we are not able to overbridge that kind of gap among the opinions. So the only way, if you would not like to create a situation when dispute on migration destroy the unity of European Union, the only way is to give all the rights back to the nation state in relation to migration. That's the only way. Otherwise, we will suffer a lot. So that's about migration. And on demography and migration, may I say that what we need is not newcomers instead of our own people originally living here, because it's just a mathematical approach. If we invite others from outside Europe, that will change the cultural identity of Europe. There are some countries who accept it. Hungary is not among that countries. We would not like to change the cultural identity of our countries, so we don't accept migration as a solution to the demographic politics or demographic challenges. We only believe that the family policy, the traditional Christian family policy, can help us out of that demographic crisis. On your question, what was that? Sorry.
So no, I think you've answered for quite enough. I just wanted to say how to avoid disruptive political approaches when accessing new countries or when adding new countries to the European Union.
So may I have one remark on that?
But really short, please.
So I try to be very cautious because the president of Serbia is here, and the key country is Serbia. So without accepting Serbia as new member of European Union, there is no reason that it's nonsense to speak about any kind of security and any kind of whole European identity. So Serbia is the key country. And the truth is that we Europeans, European Union countries, need more Serbia membership than Serbia needs the European membership. So this is a strategic issue. So the approach should be geopolitical. So we need Serbia because of geopolitics. Otherwise, we will suffer on the security side of our life.
Thank you very much. Very brief reply by Ms. Šuica, and then we go to Mr. Vučić to trying to identify why Serbia is important, as Mr. Orban mentioned.
Only short replica to Prime Minister Orban. I haven't said that migration is a solution, but that migration can be one of the solutions. If you think about headhunting, also you in Hungary sometimes look for some experts in the world. So managing migrations can be one of the solutions, but not the only. This is the reason why I mentioned rural areas and huge European potential and creating an environment for our Europeans to live there.
Okay. I will go to Mr. Vučić first and then to Mr. Babiš. What is the Serbian perspective? How do you see that from abroad, from the outside borders?
I'm the only one at this panel, apart from Mr. Parolin, that represents the country that does not belong to European Union, and of course you know that I can, of course, sorry that I didn't do it from the very beginning. As I said, I'm the only one that is representing the country that is not belonging to European Union apart from Mr. Parolin here, and I have no right to share some critical words about EU future, and I'm going to speak about Serbia's approach towards EU and what we think and what we feel today. And if I may say, and it was announced for this panel as well, that we could have and we should have discussed strategic issues for the future of EU, and as we could see so far, it was mainly about migration processes, about current crisis European Union is facing with. I would just put three things in front of you that I believe that might be very important in the near future for all of us, and then I'll go back to Serbia and its accession process. Number one is, and no one is speaking about it, of course European Union is the best place in the world for people, for speaking about living standards and democracy, human rights, rule of law and everything else. The best place in the world, no doubt. But there is nothing that is offered for the future of Europeans regarding the growth rate, what all of us will do, not only European Union member states, but all European countries. Because just 20 years ago, the participation of European Union in an overall world GDP was 20%. Today it's 10%. And in just several years, it's going to be 7%. It's getting worse and worse, lower and lower chunk of overall world's GDP. And how are we going to heal it? What are we going to change? Speaking every single day about the sexist topic, which is green agenda, which will, help us overcoming all the problems, and that's going to be a new source of growth. Is it going to be enough? I don't believe so. Do we have any other solutions apart from safeguarding measures against China and against someone else in the world whenever we are jeopardized with someone's abilities and capabilities? I haven't heard so far. And I still don't see any solutions. Number two, there is something important which is more personal, but it's a political fact. Angela Merkel is leaving German politics, and we won't have that strong German chancellor. Doesn't matter whether it's going to be Scholz or Laschet or Warbeck. That's a fact. And then my practical question, when it happens something somewhere in Europe, let's say in the countries of Western Balkans, who's going to do that phone call saying or asking for something or ordering something? Who's going to do it? To be listened by all of us. I don't see it today. Number three, more importantly, everybody is speaking about polls, about rule of law, green agenda, and when we come to the Western Balkans, yes, you belong culturally to us, and one day you'll be a part of European Union. And I'll tell you something in a very frank way, and I hope that Charles and David and all my friends and colleagues here will not be embarrassed because of my words. You see, today we are all, not only Serbia, we would say 5 or 5+1, or some would say 6, doesn't matter. We were very enthusiastic about our EU accession process. Today, that enthusiasm does not exist anymore. We started finding our own ways to overcome all economic difficulties, and we are very proud to say that Serbia was number 2, speaking about growth rate in entire Europe last year, number 4 year before that, and we'll do our best to be among top 5 this year as well. And that's why we created our own mechanisms, our own tools to overcome all the difficulties, including that great initiative which is Open Balkans. We want to have an access to each other without borders in the future, although there are some people that don't like to see it because the steering wheel is not in their hands. But to tell you the truth, we don't care about it anymore. And what we want to see is what is going to be the real future for all of us. If you see an example of North Macedonia, they changed the name of the country, and they were promised by everybody they would have opened negotiating process. Did they get it? No, they didn't. Now it's Bulgaria. Tomorrow there would be someone else. Speaking about Serbia, and tomorrow it would be for Albania, the explanation why they don't do it for Albania, it would be, well, we are not going to decouple Albania from North Macedonia because it can harm all the processes in Skopje. And then when we come to Serbia, although they'll have to admit that we made a progress on rule of law agenda and rule of law issues, they will say, yeah, it's better, but still it's not better, and then someone else, doesn't matter whether Romanians or someone else, will have some remarks on us. And that's why I'm saying this. I'm not even asking for help. I'm not even crying for help. No, I'm just saying what is true, and we see it. And that's why we will do our best to getting closer to each other, keeping stability and peace in the region, which is not always absolutely easy, and seeing what we can do. And I believe also that after Brexit, I also believe that Europe needed to enlarge itself, but instead of that, Europe started introspectively scrutinizing everything that was happening within the European Union and not seeing a wider picture. That's my opinion, and of course, just not to be wrongly understood, Serbia is fully committed, and we remain on our EU path, but we have to, not only to survive, we have to improve living conditions for our people, we'll have to work hard, and we'll take care of ourselves, together with our neighbors in the Balkans, unselfishly. Sorry that I took a lot of your time.
Those are definitely the right questions for the continuing of our debate, but we still, the whole debate was, let's say, foreseen as being, one part of the debate as being a problem identification process, and then the second part where you share your visions for the future of Europe and what are the answers to all those questions.
Can I say one word?
Yeah.
I spoke to Charles Michel 4 months ago, and at that time the alignment of with the European declarations on foreign policy was 46%. And I discussed that issue with him because it was about Kosovo leverage and everything else. Yeah. And I said to him, within few months, we'll go up to 60%. Now we are at 62%. Today it's going to be 63%. That Serbia aligned with EU declarations on foreign policy. Okay. Do you really believe that someone will notice it?
To Mr. Michel. Mr. Michel, please be brief, then Mr. Babiš, and then Mr. Parolin.
I will be
because
brief.
You were directly
but one or two points. First, this is not a secret that I'm personally totally engaged because I'm convinced that we need to strengthen the ties with the strengthened Balkans as soon as possible, point one. That's why we decided together to have a summit in 1 month in Slovenia with Janez, with all the friends, in order to have a free exchange of views and to decisions for the future, point two. Point three, what you mentioned, Aleksandar, this is a very good example. It means that our dialogue, our exchange of views, this is useful because indeed we exchange opinions On the other hand, you told me that you need more European investments, more European engagement, and we decided at the European level to mobilize an unprecedented amount of money, to try to be more tangible, to be more concrete, to be more visible for your people and for your population, and you can count on me personally in order to remain very engaged and in order to try to deliver.
Which is very true. Which is very true.
Mr. Babiš? And then I would ask, after Mr. Polorin, Yanis Janša to make a brief comment how he sees that situation from the position of the presidency.
First of all, we have to declare clearly we are speaking about illegal migration, illegal, organized by smugglers. These smugglers which made €6 billion money in 2016. These people are coming to Europe for better life. The smugglers are promising better life. And in 2015, a lot of countries welcomed the illegal migrants. By the way, our friend Sebastian Kurz, which won last election with anti-migration policy. And since the beginning of the stupid idea of quotas of Jean-Claude Juncker, we were fighting against. And Victor and me on 26 June, 4 o'clock in the morning, definitely, at European Council, we said, we are blocking this redistribution of illegal migrants. And we have to stop this illegal migration outside of Europe. And this illegal migration was connected with several terrorist attacks. We forgot probably. So this is definitely not acceptable. And it is about safety. Afghanistan, it's a catastrophe. It's a shame. It's really unbelievable what's happening in Afghanistan. And we NATO members, we have to speak about this, about safety. And this is, you are speaking about enlargement of EU. Why we don't speak about Schengen? I'm always saying loudly why Bulgaria and Romania and Croatia are waiting to enter Schengen area. Why? Our friend Zoran Zaev is sitting here. We have 60 Czech policemen in North Macedonia defending the Schengen border, which is in reality in 2015 and 16 was not really functioning. The only Schengen border which was functioning in 2015 was Viktor Orban border, only Hungarian border. So this is the reality, and where is the strategy? We never speak about the enlargement of Schengen, which is much easier than EU, and Zoran Zaev made everything. And EU didn't deliver. We didn't deliver the promises. So we have to define clearly. First about Schengen. Let's say clearly if we are going to take West Balkans in Schengen, including Serbia, our friend President Vučić, or not. Where we are going to defend our border, and I'm always saying about Asterix and Obelix village, on the sea, And how we are going to stop the migration? Very simply, like before, with negotiation with President Erdogan. He got €6 billion, now he will get I don't know how much. And we organized a lot of conferences. I was sitting in Palermo about Libya conferences. I went to Frontex. And we are speaking, and there is no strategy, no clear strategy about the territory, Schengen first, which should be much easier than enlargement of EU.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Polorin.
Thank you. I think that we are well aware of the difficult issue of migration. Is a multifaceted problems, and many of our panelists have stressed several points, several difficult points of migration. I think that the Pope Francis has given a lot of insight and suggestions on this matter, and all the politicians are attentive also to his voice, starting to match the principle with the reality. And this is not an easy task. But I think that we share the view that migration is a common problem. Some of the panelists have already touched this point, and should be tackled together. No nation, no state, not government should be let alone to face this problem, but it has to be a common policy of the European Union. And in this sense, I think that the Pact on Migrant and Asylum, which is now on the way, I think is a right attempt in this direction. But it's important also the basic attitude. The basic attitude, according to us, according to OLC, should not be a negative approach to the problem of migration. That is the problem, but more a positive one, not only in the materialistic and pragmatic sense, but also taking into account the values. We have spoken a lot about values. I think that welcoming others, living in concrete fraternity, which is one of the concepts, the main concept deal with Pope Francis in his last encyclical, is the way, the attitude, the basic attitude, how to approach the theme of migration. And then to welcome, according to the forward to welcome, to promote, and to integrate them. I think that is important. I would like to stress this point, the attitude, which should be the attitude of everybody. And the second, only a second point about demography. I think that the European Union should make a very, very strong policy in favor of families. I think that is one concrete point which can be taken into account as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Plenković, is there too much negative attitude?
You mean in our debate or in the context we live in?
Both.
I think this debate actually gives exactly the right light on how the European Union is feeling today, so to say. There are, within the Union, various types of unions happening right now as we speak. There are some of us who would like to be tough on Turkey, or some of us who would like to find a solution when it comes to migration with Turkey. There are some of us who would like to open new avenues with Russia because of the economic and global strategic reasons. Others would like to be very strict because of Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, and other frozen conflicts. There are some of us who would like to forge a partnership with the United States in state building around the world and making the global role of security. Whilst we saw the failure of the state building exercise after 20 years and so many trillions spent in Afghanistan, which was probably prone to fail due to the tribal differences and lack of cohesion within the people of Afghanistan. There are some of us who are very keen on enlargement. All of the countries in Southeast Europe. I was personally advocating this forever since I acted in politics. And there are other countries who are not. There are countries in the EU who get an allergy if you mentioned anything that starts with the letter E, whatever enlargement it is. So what's going to be the future? When Dubravka became, for the first time ever, Vice President of the Commission for Democracy and Demography, what we had in mind when we were discussing this with Ursula von der Leyen was addressing the key issue of the future of Europe. And that's basically what you asked, the Europeans, or the Croats, or the Slovenians. Half of the member states have a negative natural growth in terms of population. This is the essential issue for all of us. Look at all the countries who joined. You have either a transfer of population or a demographic deficit. Some of the countries are investing a lot of money to address the issue. But this is, in my view, essential. I think when it comes to the future of Europe, being a country that was the 28th member state 8 years ago, now it's the 27th, I think we are all neglecting the strategic loss with the departure of the United Kingdom. I think years will have to pass until we realize how much we lost, both in terms of strategic strength, hard power, nuclear power, Security Council and United Nations, and the entire impact on the Commonwealth world. But at the same time, the pieces are there. It's going to be the future of the, as Charles said, the twin transformation. Everything is going to be about green and digital. If we didn't have COVID, all of our debates would be only about climate change and exclusively about the implementation of the fourth industrial revolution. And I think this is the essence of the debate once we calm the crisis. Because I agree with you, Andre, you said Schengen. I would like to be in Schengen today. We'll fulfill the criteria. At the same time, Schengen today is not the Schengen that we basically applied to become a member. It's a Schengen area which has been, I would say, massacred by the fears of terrorism and the migratory crisis. One of the major liberties in the European Union is actually not the one that we used to have it. So on the migration, I'll be very realistic. There is no consensus. That's why the Dublin hasn't revived itself. And I think you heard the echo of the debate in the late hours of the Council. And we need to come closer, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult for Charles to manage this debate.
I want to give a positive outcome of this debate, because we heard quite a lot of negativity. Mr. Hager had a reply, and then, after him, we will turn the debate around, and I would like to hear from you, what is your vision of Europe in one sentence? So be prepared. We'll jump on that.
Thank you very much. Well, you asked at the beginning that all of us want to serve, and somehow it's difficult to find an agreement. Now you see why. But I think the situation is that everybody, we are continent, Europe of continent, as a continent has different problems. And out of these different problems, we propose different solutions. And we have different, I would say, people or views of our people who we represent on different problems. So the starting point is not the same, therefore we cannot apply only one principle. One thing that I think is a problem of Europe is that we are reactive, where we should be more proactive. And being proactive, you need to have an agreement, that's where the problem goes back to. But I think we need to still look at our values and maybe re-agree if we still agree on our values, because the values are always or give the direction. And if we are faithful to the values that we have, then we will always find solution. Sometimes we want, and Kyriakos said that, we are problem solvers. But when you deal with a problem, there's different levels of solutions you can find. An easy one, quick one, or a strategic one. And we need to have, in certain cases, very quick decisions and solutions. But we should not forget about the long term. And that goes back to Victor and Andre, where they said we are missing a strategy. On these issues, we cannot close our eyes before migration. Some say stop migration. Others say manage migration. Well, we don't have agreement, but we need to resolve this because this is a problem that we'll be facing whether we want it or not. It's happening, and we should have a proactive solution to it. So that's my view on how we should approach. Always go back to the values and look for agreement. And we are from democratic parties where we deal with coalitions. And politics, one thing that we need to say about politics is an art of possible. And that's what we should look on this level as well. And if we are looking for getting the compromise, getting the solution, I'm sure we will. But hopefully soon.
So the art of politics and looking into future, Mr. Janez Janša, what was put on the table when Slovenia took over the presidency? How do you see, and and consequently, what is your personal view of the European future? Where do you see Europe in, let's say, 20, 50 years?
And everything in one sentence.
No, you'll be allowed more. But the time is really hard on us.
Yes. So. But first of all, I want to mention that we have another panel dealing with enlargement. And we put this panel in the program of the Bledu Strategic Forum precisely because the enlargement is the debate about the future of Europe. So this is the crucial strategic debate about the future of Europe. And my vision of Europe is the same as it was the vision of the founding fathers. So Europe, whole, free, and in peace with itself and with the neighborhood. And this is not possible to reach without the enlargement. And this goal was not fulfilled with the Big Bang in 2004 when most of us entered the European Union. There are still many countries on the European soil which all deserve this perspective to be fulfilled. And I'm very sad that during the last 10 years, if you measure the agendas of the European institutions, if you measure the articles in European press, 90% of the topics were not dedicated to this strategic question, how to solve these tactical dilemmas to fulfill the strategic goal. But if we just measure this framework, 90% of those debates, also in some European institutions and the European press, were dedicated how to expel some member countries, not how to enlarge the European Union, but how to make it smaller. This is totally wrong way. This is not only substantially wrong way, it's also totally wrong message to the applicant countries. So we have to turn the tide. So, and thank you very much to President of the European Council. We agreed that we put the enlargement process in the priorities of this semester. So this is why we will organize the summit between all European leaders and the leaders of Western Balkans at the beginning of October next year in Slovenia. And Charles also put the Eastern neighborhood on the agenda for the Council in December. So this is first time after, I think, 15 years, we will deal strategically with, well, both areas, which are first to become next members of the countries from those areas, become next members of the European Union. And this is, I think this is the most strategic things. This is changing the attitude, turning around the narrative, speaking about the solutions, not how to create problems among ourselves.
Thank you. I will go now to the presidents of European institutions. What are your personal visions? First, Charles Michel, and then Mr. Sassoli.
No, two. Okay. No. Maybe just a few words. I'm convinced that our political generation, we are facing huge and very complex challenges. At the same time, we face this twin transition. We have discussed a lot about that. Point one, we are facing this COVID crisis. This is also a huge effect for the world, and we understand also that there are a lot of changes at the international level. We have a strong alliance with the United States. We see what's happening in Afghanistan, and it's why more and more I feel a political convergence in Europe in order to decide that we should cooperate much more at the geopolitical level. And this is what we have tried to do the last months when we are addressing our relationship with China, with Russia, when we will discuss with our friends in the Western Balkans, in the Eastern Partnership, a more geopolitical union. It's not a dream. We need to be concrete. We need to be more operational. This is what we are trying to do. Point one. And point two, in one word, I'm totally convinced that this unique political project in the world, 27 member states, maybe more in the future, all together, which decided to cooperate, to coordinate. This is what we need for the future. And for the future, if we want more security, if we want more stability, if we want more prosperity, if we want more freedoms, if it is what we want, we will need more cooperation, more coordination. It will be difficult. We will face obstacles. We will have different opinions about migration, about the prosperity, about Fit for 55, about all those topics. But the first condition is the mutual real understanding, to understand what are the different opinions around the table, and second, the political will, the political courage in order to be able to take a step together in the same direction.
Sì, no, grazie. Io sinceramente sono molto preoccupato delle affermazioni che ho sentito dal Primo Ministro Vučić.
What I heard from Prime Minister Vučić.
E credo che dovrebbero preoccupare tutti.
And I think that everyone should be worried about that.
Perché un paese come la Serbia, che era spinto da una grande tensione per entrare in Europa, oggi
really had this push to join is now disappointed.
Questa delusione
so this disappointment
è un danno enorme.
Is a major and immense damage.
Io credo che con pragmatismo
I believe that
i processi di adesione possano essere corretti.
The accession process can be adjusted with pragmatism.
Senza lasciare i paesi dei Balcani occidentali per 10 anni ad aspettare delle novità che non arriveranno mai.
Decades waiting for news, for changes that will never come.
In questo momento, in questi mesi,
at the moment, I mean these very months,
tutti i nostri governi sono impegnati in processi di riforme per ottenere i soldi del recovery fund.
In order to cash in, the recovery funds money.
Anche l'Italia deve fare molte riforme.
Italy too needs to carry out
i soldi non
very
arriveranno.
many reforms, otherwise no money.
Ma è mai possibile
I wonder,
che noi non siamo in grado di dire ai paesi che vogliono entrare nell'Unione Europea
can't we tell the people who wants to join
una tabella di riforme con tempi certi?
A timing, a certain timing with a timetable. Why can't we do that? We can do that. We can ask a timetable to countries belonging to the European Union, but we can't ask them. Countries that have been waiting for decades, for 10, 15 years, they want to join, they ask us to join our family.
Io credo che questo sia paradossale.
I think it's paradoxical.
Allora i meccanismi di adesione con pragmatismo possono essere corretti.
The process must be updated, adjusted with pragmatism.
Magari aggiungendo severità, ma tempi certi.
Stricter, but we have to have a certain timetable. We cannot leave
dei Balcani
the public opinions of the Western Balkan
a
countries
sperare l'impossibile.
Left behind, hoping for the best or for the impossible.
Seconda questione.
Second question.
Sono molto breve.
I'll be very brief.
Così come mi hanno preoccupato le affermazioni del Presidente Vučić, mi preoccupano anche le affermazioni di Viktor, del Primo Ministro Orban,
what Prime Minister Orban said,
quando dice che lui non vuole gestire il fenomeno migratorio, ma lo vuole bloccare. Siccome la storia spesso è maestra di vita, non vorrei che si ripetesse per l'Unione Europea quello che già è avvenuto per l'impero romano. Non custodire le nostre frontiere, non gestire i flussi migratori, può portare a farci travolgere. Ecco perché sono preoccupato di questo atteggiamento. Sulle soluzioni discutiamo. Il mio motto resta quello dell'Unione Europea. Uniti nella diversità.
The one of the European Union, united in diversity.
Thank you. Okay, to wrap up the debate, I would ask the other speakers to be really brief. What, in your opinion, I'm sorry for that because there's quite a lot of you, what, in your opinion, is key for the future of the European Union? And let's stick to one sentence now. Ms. Šuica.
I will not be able to say this in one sentence, but since I'm in charge of Conference on the Future of Europe, I really want to thank Slovenian presidency for having this as one priority. Now we have to come to the substance of this. And if I may reveal the secret today here, on the hub of the conference, which is multilingual digital platform, until 15th of August, we thought that the high priority will be health. But you wouldn't believe health is at the bottom. High priority, according to our analysis, two priorities are for our citizens: European Green Deal, climate change, and European democracy. And health, although President von der Leyen said last year in the State of the Union speech that she thinks that health will be on the top, it is not. This means that all of you are not there, that still Brussels bubble is on the hub, which is the multilingual digital platform. So this is to misuse this audience to come to digital platform, to share your ideas and to see what is the real, what are the real interests of our European citizens. So I think, and also 67% are male and only 33% are women there. So I invite everyone there. And young people are there from 19 to 39 years old. So we need everyone, all ages, genders, people from all corners of Europe to come to the platform and to share their ideas. Then we will know what are the real interests of our citizens. Otherwise, it's again us who will create the path for the future of Europe. And it is not the intention of the conference. The intention is to listen to citizens and to see what is the core of their intentions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heger.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. I think if European Union wants to grow, and I think it should grow, it needs to become a leader in the world politics. Because as we see, we're speaking about world problems more than about our own problems, which are closely related. And when you ask what's the key, well, the key is to look for the solution and having the will, as I said. And I think we will succeed.
Thank you. Mr. Orban.
Historical analogy is always useful. But those migrants who are coming now are all Muslims. So therefore, your experience how the Roman Empire collapsed is less relevant than the experience of the Hungarians and the Baltic countries who were earlier occupied by Muslim countries. So therefore, our experience is more relevant than the Roman story empire. And I'm sure that everybody who is sitting here, even the Holy Seat, is aware that those who are coming are all Muslims and changing the composition of our continent. And it's a challenge to our cultural Christian heritage. On Europe, stay together. So my future vision on Europe, stay together. The question is how to stay together. The precondition is economic success. Without having economic success, there is no political basis for common values.
Mr. Babiš.
I didn't like your expression that Europe is a soft power. We should be strong power. We should be strong economic power. We should be strong military power. And I perfectly agree with Victor about everything. And we should complete the rules, the 4 freedoms. Where is our internal market now? 235 billion euro. There is a potential of growth of all our countries. So we have to define the territory, and then we have really to be strong, because we have very strong competitors. China, Russia, and United States. Why we don't have any agreement, trade agreement with the United States, and so on. So let's come back to these 4 freedoms, which are very far not completed.
Thank you. Mr. Plenković.
Well, I would say we need an agile Europe, both internally, in terms of the strength of the member states. We need to carefully manage our internal political and public debates, because this is where the problems rise. This is what I have diagnosed as the cause of, I would say, slower steps in advance, because we need to have the political parties, the societies, the people, the interest groups behind the project. This is, I think, essential. This is how I see the hard power, without any doubt. Soft is fine, but without hard power, you're not influential enough in so interconnected world as it is today. On migrations, I think it's clear, as it cannot be more clear, that Wir schaffen das is over. It's going to be either small, managed, or humanitarian migration. This is what is happening now, and it won't move much further. But at the same time, I think as a country who is aspiring to become a member of Schengen and the Eurozone, who is strengthening our own defense capacities, I think we can contribute to this debate very constructively and bring along, especially in terms of Bled Strategic Forum, strategic necessity to integrate the Western Balkans countries into the European Union. Croatia will be your advocate and a friend, as it was for many years.
Thank you, Mr. Mitsotakis.
If someone were to listen to this debate knowing little about European politics, they would reach the conclusion that these people cannot agree on anything. But that is not true. So I want to end on a note of optimism. We have achieved a lot over the past year, and we talk little about our successes and a lot about our shortcomings. The RRF, the response to COVID, the digital certificate, climate and neutrality by 2050, all these are big achievements. Why did we manage to get to that point? Because we were able, as member states, occasionally to take a step back in order to make a great leap into the future. So for me, Europe is the art of the small compromises in order to reach big ambitions. That is what, in my mind, is at the core of us being stronger together. If in an era of unanimity, and Charles knows very well what we are talking about and how difficult it is, if we just think about the priorities of our nation states and not look at the big picture, we will not be able to be meaningful in a rapidly changing world.
Mr. Vučić.
First of all, I would like to say many thanks to Davide Sassoli and to Charles Michel. And Charles was right saying that the European Union launched a very big project which will make tangible results in my country, and that is a great news for us. Just to answer to your question, I believe in united Europe, and I believe that only united Europe can answer properly to all upcoming crises. And I also believe that all of us should become a part of that united Europe. And we know all our tasks, we know how many things we need to change, but we also, I cannot say that we are begging someone, but that's our plea, just to understand that we all need, after all, each other. And just take a look on Serbs and Croats. We cannot agree on absolutely anything that happened in the past. It's even worse than between Slovenians and Croats. And, but I believe that without cooperating, speaking about Serbs and Croats with each other, we cannot survive in the future even. Not to say that we cannot improve our position. And I believe in not only reconciliation, but I believe in pragmatic and practical approach which will bring us to better solutions in a future, once again, united Europe. Thank you.
Mr. Parolin.
I think that the future of Europe depends very much on how it is capable, it is able to reinforce and reinvigorate its identity, an identity which is rooted in the ideals and the values and the suggestions of the founder fathers. I remember them because they are at the bottom of this project, of this construction. And many of these ideas and these suggestions and these values were Christian values. Then don't forget, Europe, don't forget, it is the appeal of the Pope, your Christian roots. And I think that in this sense it is important also in the future to keep an open, transparent dialogue with the churches and with the religious association, which is already provided by the Article 17 of the treaties of the functioning of the European Union. I think that this is the future of Europe, but it is a bright future, I think.
Thank you very much. Wrapping up on optimism that was presented, let's say in the last round, and somehow showcase that unity in diversity still functions, even though not functions best all the time, but still does. I'm thanking you for the debate and looking forward to forthcoming debates on the day. But at the very end, in 15 minutes, we'll begin with the second panel, former leaders panel. So we invite you to join again then and invite you to grab a cup of coffee. Thank you for your cooperation and did this.